Right, morning guys, how's it going? So I'm back out on the bike. I've just got to nip to the post office and yeah, I'm just going to give the bike a test ride. I mean, the previous video, if you watched the last video, you see I was having trouble configuring the controller and the adapto controller. Well, it's not really configuring it, it was more, it was overheating rapidly at just basically like 30 miles an hour, just running 40 amps continuous. So I've mounted the controller to the outside of the frame. I mean, I did that before and I was still in the heating issues, but this time I've actually done another auto configure. So I've resetted the controller completely and then basically just, you know, done a complete fresh auto configuration. And it actually, I don't want to kind of shoot myself in the foot, but it basically seemed like it kind of, you know, it did a better auto calibration. You might be able to hear my rear brake, it seems to be squealing a bit. So yeah, I'm just in eco mode at the moment, just cruising along, you know, 20 mile an hour, no dramas really. You know, very low current. I've got the drill battery packs in here at the moment, so 4 of those, 12 amp hour, 84 volts, and this is kind of like my temporary setup when things go wrong. So just as a recap, my Adapto Max E basically blew up, not from overuse or anything, just using within the parameters of everything, no unlocked firmware, nothing dodgy like that. But it basically, yeah, it just popped. And also my battery lost a cell bank of the parallel, actually a series bank, so 10 cells. One of the S has just gone completely, so yeah, kind of sucks really. So the bike's been out of action, but I've managed to kind of cobble together a setup that doesn't involve me changing everything on the bike, like throttle and all the other bits and pieces. This rear brake is really squealing. I need to sort this out. It's definitely not helping things. But yeah, this is like eco mode, just pootling along, as I say, 6 amps. So this is a 12 amp hour battery, and I've got a range at the moment showing 26 miles. So, you know, I'm pedaling, but I'm not really putting any effort in. But I just I've only got a couple of miles really to go, and that'd be about it. So yeah, it's a lovely morning, really frosty this morning, and I love these kind of winter mornings where it's like this. You know, you get a bit of frost and then it kind of clears and you get the sun. So it's a great time of year. Right, I'm going to flip into normal mode now and see what we can do. This rear brake is really starting to annoy me now. Right, let's see if we can get some speed on and see if the old controller actually heats up. Before, I wasn't getting a mile before I was getting overheating on the controller. So you know, this was what I was doing. I was basically cruising along 30 mile an hour. I mean, it's actually using less current than it was yesterday. To maintain 30 mile an hour, it was about 40 amps, so I think something was definitely wrong. My regen current I've got set now to a lower level. With the big battery I had about 60 amps. Now I've got it about 20, I think, on this setup, because the batteries themselves are, the chargers that come with the batteries themselves are actually 8 amp, so they charge at a rate of 8 amps, and it's only a 6,000 amp hour. It's 6,000 milliamp hour. It's only a 6 amp hour battery, so that is quite a fast charge rate for that. But yeah, it seems to be okay. I'm not gonna you know, I'm not gonna jinx myself here, but it's seeming like I can get, you know, and there's no temperature rise on the controller, which is really encouraging. Haven't even got 1 bar yet. I found that when it was overheating rapidly, the heat sink on the actual controller, which I was stuck on with this 3M I don't know, it's good quality thermal tape, basically, like double-sided tape. I know it's not as good as kind of probably thermal paste and actually bolting the you know, bolting the heatsink to the controller, but you know, it works. Well, that's what I thought, but actually when the controller was rapidly heating up, I was finding that it was not actually heating the heatsink up. The controller was still hot, and the heatsink was, you know, definitely probably a couple of minutes behind the behind the controller. So I thought, this brake, oh, honestly, what is going on? I tried adjusting this brake the other day, and it's just not working at all. Right, I'm noticing one slight little nip up on the old controller there. There's a slight little bar on the controller for the heat there. That was a little hill. Let's just hopefully see we're not going to get any more. I'm nearly at the post office now anyway. Big shout out to Dave. I know there's a couple of Daves that watch this channel, but big shout out to Dave for being understanding. I said I'd send him the stand. He actually sent me the stand for this bike, and I tried to fit it and it didn't really work out, so I said I'd send it back, and it's been about 6 months since I've done it, so apologies and thanks for the understanding on that, Dave. We're just you know, he was very busy and stuff like that, but no excuse. Alright, so almost there. Yeah, this is, it's much more comfortable with a saddle. I'll tell you what, if anyone's considering doing the moto seat, if you do a lot of miles, don't bother. If you, let's just put it in there. Yeah, if you're actually not, you know, not going to ride it on the road and stuff like that, I'd probably do it, because if you're doing a lot of off-road, it makes sense, because, you know, it's a better seat for sort of enduro sort of riding. But when it comes to doing any distance, I wouldn't bother, because this is way more comfortable. Saddle's so good. Alright guys, parcel dropped off. So I'm just looking at this like the stats screen here. I've only used 1.68 amp hours, which is pretty nice. Maximum 33, nearly 34 mile an hour. So yeah, this is pretty cool. 2.8 miles. So right, let's carry on. So the other thing with this bike is you can't actually pedal above about 18-20 miles an hour, because the front cog is actually pretty small. It's something I've been looking into, but there is a thing called a schlumpf, love that word, which is like a schlumpf drive. It's like a planetary gearbox which goes inside the bottom bracket, which looks pretty cool. You kind of change gears by just flicking your heel on a little peg, and it changes gears, but it gives you some crazy ratios, and it allows you to pedal up to about 60 mile an hour. So it's good, but it's not cheap, really not cheap. And I don't know if I really want to do that to this frame. I might, you know, I don't know if it's worth it. It might be better doing it on a Nix frame, an NYX one. I've got my eye on those, you know, carbon fibre. The thing about those frames is they're actually not really that much lighter than this, even though this is steel, because they use a hell of a lot of carbon fibre to actually, you know, make it strong. So it ends up weighing nearly as much, but of course it's a lot stronger, and it looks a lot nicer. I've got nothing against these frames. They're really, really nice, but I've noticed a little bit of rust kind of appearing in certain areas. So yeah, I don't know, it's a weird one. It just needs to kind of put a bit of hammer. I've just been putting hammerite on it just to get rid of, you know, make it stop it in its tracks. But it's mainly is it like a powder coating thing, I think, I don't know, the coating over the top of the over the top of the steel. Got to watch that with these little birds. You know, that could be the difference between you coming off the bike. I suppose it's the same with any bike, but cross over the M11. So yeah, I'm cruising again, 25 amps this time. Got one bar on the controller, one heating bar. It's definitely climbing. There's another bar just appeared there. What I'm aiming for, I'm hoping it's going to just, that bar's going to go down, and it's only just popped up just briefly because I went up a hill. But it's still climbing. Depends what you want though. I mean, 30 mile an hour is actually, it's kind of fine for a bike like this. You know, just for cruising. What you find is that the temperature will rapidly go up if you're well, it shouldn't really, but it does kind of go up when you're doing off-road riding, because you're doing a lot of you're doing quite a bit of you know, torque and stuff like that, and the current, it's not kind of just one blast of power, it's continuous blasts of power as you're getting up to speed. Well, we're not at 40 amps, you know, continuously trying to maintain 30 mile an hour. I don't know what that was all about the other day, but that's just plain wrong. Battery's not going to last 5 minutes if that's the case. Yeah, with the temperature's creeping up now. I don't know if this is because, you know, we've got a bit of terrain here and there, but it seems to be staying, hopefully it seems to be staying in the area of that, just that first bar. Now, the thing with these controllers I've noticed is they say that this gauge here is the temperature gauge for the motor, and I think if you've got a working temperature sensor, I haven't by the way, then that is basically what happens. But I think that this temperature gauge is actually a combination of the motor temperature and the temperature of the controller, and you'll get a thermal rollback on either, because as I say, I haven't got a temperature sensor that's working because I had an accident with the a long time ago with the wires, the phase wire, not the phase wires, but the wire that comes out of the motor basically, and all the little tiny wires for the hall sensors. I had a problem where my brake disc, one of the bolts on the brake disc was basically came out and it sheared through a bunch of wires. It knocked out a set of hall wires, and I had to revert to the others, but the temperature sensors never worked. And at that point I didn't have any controller that had a temperature reading on anyway, so I never know. It never knew if it worked from the beginning, so I do need to either fix that or change over to another motor at some point. Really nice. I'm pretty happy with this. It's working really well. You know, there seems to be any problems. It's not going to be as ridiculous as before. You know, once I get my Max E back, then I'll be able to sort of do my crazy stuff again. But as a transportation vehicle, this is cool, very cool. It's nice and comfortable as well with this seat, really nice. So just a cruise, 30 mile an hour, still going 30. But funnily enough, my range anxiety is completely gone. Since I got the big battery, even though I'm not using the big battery now, but since I got the big battery, it just completely nuked my range anxiety. I don't know, it's a psychological thing, I think. When I had my 30 amp hour battery in there, which is still kind of been, which is still at Insat for repair. Unfortunately, Jimmy hasn't been very well lately, so he hasn't been able to look at it yet. But it will happen. Pretty cold on the old legs. Should have stuck some thermals on. Alright, so let's have a look. We've done 5 amp hours. That's pretty impressive, really. 7.2 miles. Maximum power 3.2 kilowatts, which is nothing really, but it just shows you don't actually need, you know, huge amounts of power. If you want to feel the acceleration, then yeah. But oh, this brake is so. I think on my e-bike journey, I've been fairly lucky in terms of kind of you know, putting things together and they kind of just work. You know, I haven't really had too many issues. I mean, I have quite a bit of experience with kind of power systems, electric power systems, having been involved in a lot of radio controlled stuff. I had a company quite a while ago that's kind of brought out one of the first lithium polymer batteries for radio controlled flight. It wasn't solely my company, but it was me and a bunch of others, and very, very interesting times when lithium polymer was just starting to enter into everything really. High discharge lithium power packs, but yeah, so it's only when you start kind of messing around, kind of, you know, trying things out of the box, which I've been doing here, obviously with the drill packs, and you know, just trying different stuff out basically, just to see, you know, other options for people that want to go different routes. And yeah, it's been interesting. It's certainly not as, when you're trying to do things around the houses and you're trying to make things work, rather than just going and buying all the dedicated stuff and putting it together, you know, it's actually quite an interesting journey. Right, this is a hill test at only like 60 amps. Oh, hang on a second, something strange has happened here. Gone down to 67.
Right, it's Andy from the future here. I was just editing this and realised I didn't really explain what happened. So I was just going to do that hill test, and I noticed the voltage drop quite significantly. I don't think there's anything to worry about, but basically what happened here, I was just stopping. I took the side of the bike off and I just you know, checked the voltages, or I think I just used the onboard voltage you know, meter of the packs themselves, just to make sure nothing was bad, and also the parallel connections. I checked all of those to see if it was all right. Everything was fine. It's just, I think it's just a low, the voltage just had dropped to a certain level because, you know, just used the batteries up basically. So that's what happened. Sorry about the wind noise as well. I don't know what's going on there. I have like a microphone actually in my helmet, which, you know, stays on all the time, but I'm pretty sure what's happened here is the little USB connector on the side of the GoPro has come out, or has not been connected, or the camera hasn't recognised the mic, something stupid. So I've got half the video with a load of bad wind noise. Sorry about that, but it was either that or just not do the video at all. So
yeah, not bad. Couple of big hills there were on the way back. One thing I've noticed actually is that the temperature is not even moving a tiny bit now. Now that the voltage is lower, maintaining 30 mile an hour, it's just not making any difference to the temperature. So something I was reading about, and they were saying basically that if you've got, for every 100 amps of phase current, it adds on 10 volts to your battery voltage at the inside the controller. this is where the problem happens, because the maximum voltage of the controller can handle is only about 95 volts. So if you've got too much phase current, you could be getting overheating of the FETs that way, which I think is it's quite clear that that's the sort of thing that's happening.
Right, I'm back. Got on the other camera, it's a bit better quality. So what we got here, I think you can see this when it focuses. So done 14 miles in total. Now it's saying we've got 18% battery left, 2 miles left. That was at the rate I was going. As I was saying, this temperature thing just means nothing because, you know, there's no temperature sensor installed in the motor. So if I have a look on the stat screen, we've got 9.83 amp hours used, total miles 14, maximum power 3.2 kilowatts, maximum speed 36.7. You know, nothing unusual there. But as I was saying, the controller temperature is definitely cooler when the voltage is lower. So that's something to take note of. Those of you that have Sabbaton controllers will not have any issues with overheating, because those controllers just, I don't know, I think they've just got a lot more FETs in, but they are literally they just don't get hot at all. So I'm going to put the bike back in, and then I'm going to take the batteries out and have a look. So what I usually do is turn the light on, just turn some lights on so you've got some power going, and then when I flick my circuit breaker, you'll see that it will just basically, you know, remove the power out of the speed controller. So you haven't got any issues with you know, wires inside touching, and you know, there being a little bit of sort of residual power left in there. So let's get the side of this off. Pretty much just warm. It's like lukewarm. What we don't want is one pack that's hotter than the others. Cool. Right. So we can get our batteries out, hopefully in one block. I don't know how well these connectors would hold up, like off-roading. Probably not very well at all. Right, so the two parallel sides now disconnected. Got a flashing light there. Got a flashing light there. Got a flashing light there. And a flashing light there. So let's see if they've discharged equally. This will be interesting. So 33.5. You'd expect the parallels to be the same, or near as, damn it, after they've been disconnected. 33.5. Second lot. 33.8. Interesting. And 33.8. So the parallels are the same. Now the difference in those two, I'm thinking probably what that is, I left 2 on the charger overnight, and then 2 off the charger. So maybe, I don't know, there's been some sort of self-discharge or something happening. I think when the charger stops, it stops though. But maybe it's down to like balancing, or you know, it could be different things that way. But on the charger anyway. Right, so the big power pole connectors are turned up. I thought I was supposed to get 2 pairs. Don't know what's going on here. I think that's a mistake. They're good though, these things. Really, really solid connector.